0. All right. So what part of UK are you in?
I'm in the Highlands of Scotland on the west coast.
You're in Scotland.
Yeah. It's a balmy 5 degrees here.
A balmy. I don't want any of that. It was cold
Yeah,
here
you're
last night. It was 60 degrees. It was cold. They had like a...
You're boasting. You're boasting.
No. I'm serious. It was cold, but not as cold as 5 degrees. I don't miss 5 degrees. All right. Let's see. William Wallace, the land of William Wallace. That's where you're from.
Many, many famous people. Many stories in Scotland.
All right. Okay, we're good. All right. Katie and the Crow's in the house.
Hello,
Katie and the Crow. Be talking soon, I'm sure. All right. Nasia and Stephen Hogg, Morgan Lee, and a few other people I can't see. Jody Lee's in the house. Karen Cox, Debrielle, Michael Van Patten from way over in Germany. Following the fairy tale, Michael Gabay. Who else? Dwayne Hartman. We'll be seeing him in a couple, 2-3 days. Joan Kirkendall, Fiona Morris, Sherry Whiting, Terry Stacy. That's all. Soulogy. Naveen Kaiser over in the Netherlands. Paula C. Hancock. Patricia Satchwell. Thank you for your continued love, support, and contributions, and as well as many others. And Nadine Neary Baker. All right, we got a special guest today. We're going to have a really cool show. Her name is Sheila Sen, and she's over in the northern part of Scotland, right?
The west coast.
Oh, the west coast.
Not the most north, but the most west.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes, it's beautiful. You must come, Todd, with Morgan.
Oh, we'd love to.
Please.
We've got a few other things. We got a few other places a couple of places we need to go before we go anywhere. So we're working on that. But yeah, we've often thought we'd be traveling or seen it earlier, even before we met. So have you watched many of the shows?
Yes, I've watched quite a few of your shows. I became interested in Katie Indicrow's work and saw some of the broadcasts she did with you, and that's how I found you. And then Morgan, of course, beautiful Morgan Lee.
Yeah, I know she is.
Yeah, I know you know. You tell us all the time how beautiful she is, Tom. Yeah.
Oh, do I? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So then you won't be shocked. You won't be shocked when I ask you, when did you wake up?
Any day now.
Yeah, I love that answer. Somebody said one time. Somebody said every day when I wake up.
Yeah. In increments, Todd. It will go on forever. I'll go on for the rest of my life. Waking up.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
There's always more to wake up to, isn't there?
Yeah. Has the energy been particularly, I don't want to say intense, but present?
Yes, it's been intense.
In the last 3 or 4 to 5 days, I mean, has it been just like there's alignment, there's all this information? Wow. Yesterday I got birthing. I told Morgan there's something birthing. We got into some really good conversations, her and I, yesterday, with all this energy coming around.
Yeah, it's been...
So what have you been feeling?
Oh, the last few days I've been feeling expectant. I'm I'm preparing. The sense of preparing for something enormous and very exciting and happy is just about to happen. I feel that. Yeah. But actually everything changed in 11/11, I think, when we had that enormous day of prayer on the Remembrance Day, and a lot of us group meditated, and then everything seemed to change politically. Lots of things happened in a domino effect. I've been amazed at how things have changed so much in the last few months.
That's a powerful observation. So 11/11, some people say the solstice. I started to really feel it from the solstice, but man, these January was incredible, but these last few days, this last week has just been, maybe even 10 days has just been super, intense, full of information. I mean, visible timeline or dimensional shifts, where you're just walking into a different space, seeing beautiful things in other people as they're shifting and elevating and expanding and becoming more aware. The way people are dealing with their shift, without the F.
Yeah.
But
Shift happen.
people are dealing with their stuff and they're getting their nose out of other people's business. And the big word that came into Morgan yesterday was sovereignty.
Sovereignty, yeah.
Sovereignty. And she actually channeled that the 13th chakra is sovereignty. And then one of our sisters here on the island, who we did a show with 2 or 3 weeks ago, wrote a post on the same thing yesterday or today.
That's so cool, because I changed my the byline under my photograph on Facebook is sovereignty. Mm. That one word, sovereignty.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So do you, how long have you been in the Lightworker circles? I mean, have you been active in or aware of ascension and the things that have been happening for a long time, or a short period of time?
My father was a Hindu. He been in this country since the late 50s. My mother, English white English woman. So he was here in the Highlands. There was no real community for him, but so he never went to temple or spoke Bengali to us or taught Bengali to us in the home. But intrinsically, he was of that pacifist spiritual nature. So he was my first teacher, of course. And then I was very lucky. I met one person after another who taught me in various ways. Ailey McCluskey taught me Reiki and introduced me to the crystals about 15 years ago. I took refuge in Buddhism about 25 years ago. Yeah, it's in increments, as I say. And then Anne Miller, the Crystal Awakener, she's been an enormous teacher to me. Gay Anderson, there's been so many. And then when I started finding groups on Facebook, of course, everything exploded. Jen McCarthy on the Event is Happening page, she has been huge, and she does this beautiful group meditations, which I found have increased my consciousness and allowed downloads, as I now know they're called, downloads, to happen to me overnight. I was not afraid then when I woke up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, because I knew that this is energetic rather than angina.
I'm sorry, I have my mic up too loud. I'm gonna have to turn it down with you because I'm gonna be laughing. Jim McCarty, she's a powerful sister. She is Morgan and I were talking about this yesterday. Morgan was getting all this intel about how what would the word be? Practitioner, or the 5D practitioner, or 5D healer, maybe is the word. How that archetype is coming back, how it's a vocation that will be defined, that will be recognized as a vocation, and equal energy exchanges in terms of what people need for what they do, and everybody's supporting each other. But I think Jen and many others are a very good example of that. She has done a lot of things. She writes, she creates a group, she leads these meditations. She's been on the show, I think, 3 times. She's wonderful to collaborate with. But that, you see a lot of that. A lot of people have been doing that for a long time. And I guess you've seen that because you've been in the game a long time, right?
I think out with the spiritual community is actually the people choose love, Todd.
Yeah.
And globally in the world, in politics, the old patriarchal structures that are falling now, is like the end of the empire, this conspicuous consumption. The people see that. The people are disgusted with that. 30 years ago or so, my grandmother, she trusted the government, the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Corporation, the clergy, lots of structures. Well, if he says it, it must be right. And then she's, no, actually, it's very ordinary people, people who would not say they're politicized, became politicized because they were disgusted with the overt decadence of the ruling structures. And this is Babylon is falling around our ears, in front of our very eyes. And the common person like me is becoming more and more politicized in how we are, in our day-to-day lives. And people choose love, the people choose love, and we are more and more aware of that, and we are more and more acting from that foundation.
Powerful spiritual activism.
Oh, yes.
Energetic, conscious, energetic, intentional affirmations into the universe, and then actions that align with that.
Yeah, the critical mass of that is growing hugely, vastly.
Now, I was going to ask you that. Do you think ordinary people are becoming consciously opposed, aligning with love, basically?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And people don't need to talk about energy to feel energy. Everyone feels energy and know what repels them and what attracts them.
Right.
And this is yeah.
No, go ahead.
This is a motivating factor more and more for people.
Yeah. The heart.
Yeah, the heart. For all people that never talk about chakras or ascension, that are going around their day-to-day lives with compassion, because they see lack of compassion. And so it polarizes the people to be more compassionate in opposition to the uncompassionate structures of government and money and war and so on.
Yeah. Now, have you had at any point in your journey had any type of galactic connection or communication or identification or feeling about?
Galactic connection? No, I can't speak anything of that, although some of my friends talk about that, and I'm very fascinated to listen to it, but I have no feeling in myself of connection to that. But what I have noticed is that the sun is, the rays of the sun seem to have more information coming to them. I think that the plants are I'm getting into deep water here because I can hardly say what I mean, but yeah, I will leave it at that, Todd.
I think you said it very well. Have you, I'm just curious because I get to talk to so many people. So have you had a path where you had these teachers who were basically gods and goddesses incarnated in your life? Or have you had any particular divine essences, angelic, anything that you aligned with or that spoke to you on your path? Or has it always been you and the universe and your teachers?
I think one of the great things for me was that my father, when I was a very young girl, taught me massage. For no reason of his own, he taught me to massage. So then it's a very Indian thing. This, I was massaging him twice a day, walking on his back when I was 3 years old, and it led me to I suppose a sensuous connection with life. Yeah. And I think that living with regard to the senses is a way of being divine as a common person.
Well, and the great thing about that is that as I learned the hard way and still learning, I'm like you, there's an ing on everything, right? But is that, we've got to embody everything. I've learned this from Morgan. I mean, it took, a couple of years of her telling me, because I didn't know what she was talking about. But the embodiment part, and to me, what you're describing, it's physical. It's the integration of the physical and the non-physical. You can, call it Reiki, whatever you want to call it. It's the touch. It's the energetic body and the physical body in alignment, like you said, aligning with divine love, divine frequency. So that's an amazing,
and physical work is spiritual. Gardening is very, very spiritual. Gardening to me probably is the most spiritual. Bringing up my child is very spiritual. Gardening, clearly the seasons, working with things that are bigger than me.
Yeah.
Is deeply spiritual, and teaching. He's a great teacher to garden.
Well, the thing is we spend so much of our time looking out in the cosmos for everything, when the closest face of the universe is right here on Earth, right in front of our faces, right? So whether it's you at 3 years old cracking your dad's back, or working in the garden, or whatever. Somebody just asked, was your dad a doctor in the Northern Highlands?
Yes.
Yeah, so somebody knows him. Do you still, is your dad still on the 3D?
No.
Has he transitioned? I've never asked anybody something
about the Sattva anyway, Todd. He was a person on this earth. When he was walking on the earth, he was very extremely compassionate person. He was actually well known for this. When I said the eulogy at his funeral 4 years ago in the church, I said that he had this special gift, which was that he saw the good in everyone. He saw the good in people who I would not even want to sit with. I find so distasteful. He would find something about them. He would see through everything else to that part, that seed, which is in all of us. And this was divine of him. He could bring out the divine in everyone. That's our task.
Wow. That's a healer. That's a 5D plus healer before the age actually came.
Yeah.
That's a Christ consciousness frequency, a transformational frequency. Yes. So did you spend a lot of time under his tutelage, or just when you were a kid walking on his back? Did you spend a lot of time with him as you got older?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the whole time. I mean, I went away for a bit when I was 16 or something, and came back when I was, I think, 30. But I would ring him every night or every 2 nights from wherever I was. And then in his later years, he was a gardener. I mean, when he retired, he was doing community gardening, and he was guerrilla gardening. He was guerrilla gardening. He would garden in the intersection, not a really big place here, but little patches of common ground. He would start digging away, and then the council would come. What are you doing, actually, Dr. Sen? And so, he influenced me in so many ways to do the healing, and I trained in massage and in Reiki and things like that, and in the gardening to garden with my son now, and gardening with him. He's 11, and actually I was able to spend a lot of time with him in his last years. Actually, in the last 5 months of his life, I was not his carer, because he was not very infirm, but I was his companion. I would go there every day after my son went to school, and come home and pick up my son, and then go back to him in the evening, and we would cook together. And when he passed, I was very privileged. I had 5 days before any of my family could come back from the various places that they were. So I was able to go into the funeral parlor and to dress his body in the old way, with the sandalwood and the coconut oil, and put things in his pockets.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah,
That's
it was
incredible.
so good. It was crazy, because actually 3 of the closest members of my family, they were in 3 separate countries, and none of the 3 of them could come back until he was 5 days after he'd passed. And then they all arrived at the same time. After these 5 days, I mean, I had this soul time with him, and I could be there and oil his body and things like that in the old way.
That's fascinating. That's universal alignment, right? Creating space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm curious. I'd love to hear your perspective on what do you think things will look like. They're not so much anymore, but people say, hey, the Earth's going to split, and we're going to go over here, and this group's going to stay here. Everything's going to transform before our eyes, or we're going to be picked up in spaceships and sent somewhere else or whatever. I'd love to hear what your perspective is in regard to all the evolution and expansion you've seen collectively. Where we're at now, how fast things are moving. What do you think it's going to look like in the near future? I mean, are we going to be teleporting? We're going to be two places at once? Are we going to be able to fly our Merkabahs into the cosmos? I mean, what do you think the limits are here in the short term?
I don't think there are any limits, and the trajectory, or not even a trajectory, the chicanes, the curvy lines that we've been experiencing in the last, even just in the last few months, things are definitely speeding up. I feel that, but I have no sight of the weekend, you know. I'm living in the moment, and when I try to think, I get a headache. I get a fuzzy head. So I know, drop into my heart, and every decision's made in my belly. I was always this, you know, I come from quite an intellectual family. So it was in the past, I was full of anxiety, trying to think about things, gain some control, be able to foresee what might happen, in some sense of keeping myself safe, having a safety by intellectualizing things. That's all gone totally. I couldn't even begin to live like that now. All decisions happen in the belly. And thinking happens now in my heart, in my crystalline heart.
Nicky Hammond broke it up a little bit similar to that. He talked about the mind, the heart, and the gut, I think is what he called it. And the alignment of those three, I think it was him. And it's interesting too, because every day there's validation, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it, alignment. And just this morning, Morgan had said just exactly what you just said a second ago. About the thinking. She got last night and this morning, the mind is the last thing to go. You know, detached from the mind, the chatter, like you're talking about. When you start to think, you start to get a headache, right?
Yeah, and the brain is actually the least intelligent part.
Uh-oh.
Can you still hear me? Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you cut out. I didn't hear your answer. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said that the brain is the least intelligent part.
Okay. Yeah. And how did you, let me ask you this. How do you deal with the energies when they come in? Do you still have shadows pop up? How do you get through those periods of imbalance?
I rest a lot. I have my all my aromatherapy oils. You know, I'm doused in lavender at the moment. My salt baths, yoga, gardening. My son. Actually, I think the most therapeutic thing to do is to laugh and to play. Yeah. Be with the kids. The kids know. The kids have it.
Yeah, don't they?
Yeah. The kids are they're really in a different paradigm totally from our generation. They're ecological and anti-war and multicultural, and they're like, you lot are crazy. What's all that fighting all about?
Do you know any kids we could get on the shows? Any young people? That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'll think about that. Yeah, I'll ask my son Max. He's 11. He's good.
Oh, really? What's that like? Watching a kid that age grow up in this time. What do you see in them?
Oh, they're great. They're well, we see it, don't we? The children, I don't know if you have it in Hawaii, but the children here are doing protests outside of the school. There was a girl, I think she's Swedish, called Greta Thunberg. She stopped going to school because she said climate change is happening so rapidly that there will be no future for the kids. Why should they go to school? They should be protesting against the climate change. And here in the nearby town in Fort William, we have children, and there some parents standing outside the schools on a Friday morning protesting climate change. I think
Wow.
our generation in general have been fought shy of raising their hand, being seen to deviate from the protocol, from the status quo. But the children are like, you lot are crazy. We're not gonna go along with the crazy things you tell us we should do, and we know that we are thinking better than you, because they're thinking with their hearts, whereas we're still trying to let go of our big brains. The
Do
big
you
brains are
see
mess.
do you see a different level of artistic, creativity, intuition, telepathy with these young people?
I don't know. I can't say anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're spiritual. I think that the times are more spiritual. The atmosphere. Something happened some time ago. You said this the other day on the transmission, that the air had become more dense. It seems that
I don't remember.
it seems that the atmosphere has become more supportive. It's it's
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's less thin. It's less thin than it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like it's like at a five senses and above level, it's taken on more physicality, sight, smell, feeling, and it's all knowing, I guess. But yeah, you're starting to see some things like we've seen in the last, I don't know, we saw a double rainbow. We've seen a portal in the night sky. I mean, there's people seeing stuff everywhere.
Yeah, and the skies have been amazing. The
Mm.
skies have been amazing. All those reds and purples in the sky all over the world. You see photos on Facebook from incredible, actually surreal
Yeah.
skyscapes.
Yeah. And sunsets and colors in the sky. Yeah. Yeah. We
Yeah, we
went out
had
to
an
the beach.
amazing one on solstice.
Oh,
The
yeah.
sky on solstice was 360 degrees pink and purple.
Mm.
Not in one spot like sunrise, but the whole 360 degrees turn was this incredible, yeah, I say like a godly sense
Mm. Mm.
of something much, much bigger than the humans and our history thus far, which has been his story, the patriarchal 3,000 years of metal that we've gone through. Now everything's becoming much softer and much more compassionate, and this is what the children have been born into, and this is why the children have that wisdom from their heart,
Yeah.
because they're not so much intellectual. They're more compassion. They're more working from the heart, living from their heart.
Yeah. I'm sure they came in with cleaner DNA and they haven't been conditioned, it's been an interesting ride, the last few years. And for you've had to watch this happen for 15, 20 years, I would think, right? I mean,
Sure,
the whole
sure,
evolution and expansion. I mean,
sure, sure.
did you ever think it would get to this point, this point of consciousness right now within yourself and what you're seeing collectively? Did you ever even dream of that?
For me, this is freedom. This is a sense of freedom, and one of the things was happened that I had to let go of certain. I have to tell you, Todd, there was an old understanding in my family and beyond that I was quite crazy, and really I had to get to the stage where I had to gain my sovereignty. I had to claim my sovereignty, and I had to let go of some people. And some of these people were really, really close to me, so it was hurtful. And after banging my head against the proverbial brick wall for a very long time, I couldn't. I suppose things happened to me. The wonderful teachers who taught me to self-respect, that I'm worthy, that I'm not crazy, that I have a right to my heart. And then I found that I could develop a relationship with the higher self of certain people. But and this allowed me to let go of their physical self.
Wow. So you developed a relationship with their higher selves, which obviously you had one with your higher self, right? And there's a lot of people waking up right now, and they're learning at a much faster pace than someone like me did over 7 years. You know what I mean? If that information's out there, it's there in a much greater quantity. But anyway, my point is, I mean, how did you get to the point where you started to, to communicate with your higher self? And I think more interesting to me is, how did you start speaking to the higher selves of others? What was that like?
I think it was when my friend Gay Anderson took me on some shamanic journeys, and then I was able to speak to the higher self of my husband, and my husband's higher self said to me, "Flower, it's don't be so sad. It's all fears and weaknesses on the earthly plane." And I was crying so much when I came out of that journey, but it allowed me to connect with his higher self, which made me not mourn the demise of our any kind of ability to have relationship on the earthly realm. And then I developed that that knowledge or that sensation, so that people like my father, who I had a great relationship with on the earthly plane, then when he passed, I was able to actually be closer to him after he'd passed, because he's never away from me. Whereas on the in the 3D, he was sometimes away from me. And my grandmother passed just before Christmas. She is very present now. I was not able to see her for a decade due to certain family problems, not from her but from other people. And now she's with me constantly. So actually, we're in a connection that we were not allowed in 3D, but in 5D, I have every freedom. I have every
Wow.
freedom. And also I have a relationship with some members of my family in 5D who are still living, but who I have no relationship with in 3D, because the earthly plane is about fears and weaknesses. And not everyone is lucky enough to meet the people and read the information or whatever that we have, that let us know that there was more and we could search for more.
Wow. That's powerful. And you're living it, you're being it. And I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of very balanced people, I'd say. I mean, I think many of us, anyone listening, I mean, people are waking up. But you seem to be, especially after telling the story, which sounds very familiar. Everyone thought we were crazy. Many families booted us out. But the point is now we know we're not, or weren't. But it's nice to see that you're doing it, and you're in a really nice place. You don't seem to have any self judgment. You're you know at peace. You have a really intriguing and, to me, unique relationship with those who have transitioned, and obviously you're very connected. So it's nice to see, and thank you for sharing this energy with us.
Thank you, Todd. It's very nice to speak to you after watching you, like on TV.
On TV.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's nice to meet different people from around the world. We get a lot of messages recently. It's picked up a lot. I mean, we're still going. Like you said, you can't see the weekend. We just try to make it through each day, and everything comes to us. And I think that's happening everywhere. And I think that conscious intention. That's why I was asking you the question about people that may not be listening to stuff like this. Uh, are they getting to a point where they're consciously on the road to finding that peace, as opposed to just being polarized by it? Are you seeing that energy of the young people that you're describing in Scotland? are you seeing a lot of political polarity?
No, I think that the children have it as you say, they're not being infected with the decades of TV and other ways of mind control that people of our generation have. So they're much more open to the new energies of love, which are now everywhere, which is now in the very air around us. Um, but as I said, I think that everyone is becoming more and more loving in response to the lack of love they see in political structures, in the government, in war, in money, um, and the people choose love. Yeah, the people choose love. Everywhere. Refugee aid collection, for example, helping homeless people, food banks. People with very little are giving to food banks, are giving to refugee aid collection.
Yeah.
We all realize that we have way too much stuff. We've been quite literally sold the idea that we must buy more and more in the past, and we have homes which are full of tat.
full of shit, full of shift. I use the
Yeah,
word shift and replacement. I find it funny. But
yeah. And
yeah,
we've got
that's
to
true.
get rid of that. We don't need it. That's this stuff is
Yeah,
it's holds us prisoner if we
yeah,
if we uh, if we don't move it out of the way. It creates static. It creates dust. It defines us in something that happened previously.
yeah. They're like physical representation, like anchors, right?
Mm.
Like energetic anchors. But you see a lot of people clearing stuff out now
Yeah,
in more way than one.
yeah, absolutely.
Moving, and getting rid of all their stuff, and just life changing stuff. Linda Scott, she just went to that island off of Spain.
Ibiza.
She got yeah, 2 weeks ago. She's like, I got this thing. I'm going. Like, but a lot of people are doing that. I mean, a lot of people are doing that. That's I don't know. It's exciting. These last 3-4 days seem to really have taken off. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
like,
last 2 or 3 days things have changed. Maybe 4 days, things have changed again. I had a lot of epiphanies and downloads. Waking up very very hot, feeling heart palpitations overnight, unable to sleep after 4 a.m. And then it calmed down, and I was able to rest a lot more, and had one period where I was sleeping a lot of the time, sleeping a lot overnight, and then sleeping, being so tired during the day that I was also having 1 or 2 naps. And now I'm feeling again, these last 4 days, the heart palpitations, the sweats overnight, and um, I mean, I'm past menopause. It's nothing to do with that. I know. It's just something new's happening. Actually, so much information's coming down now from the sun.
yeah, yeah, and it's having an effect on the body. I mean, a lot of people talked about that in January. January it was for me. The end of December, 1st of January. It took a long time to get my energy back.
January was crazy. January was like 3 months long, 4 months long.
Yeah, yeah. That's why every time somebody says, "Oh, this is going to happen in 2020 or it's going to happen in 2029," and I'm like, you know what? No way, no way. It's moving too fast, and I think it maybe collectively, individually, like you're talking about sovereignty. Maybe on an individual level, enough people have said, "That's enough. I've had enough," and I'm going to stay in the heart, and I'm going to say no to the things I need to say no to. I'm going to stop conforming. I don't know. It seems like there's a mass of people out there. This is happening,
Yeah,
and
for
and
sure.
it's a kind of an appreciation of the human, appreciation of what we've been through, appreciation of what we are, and celebration and discovery of what we're coming to understand that we are multidimensional, 5D, living in the world that you're living in, basically. Do you spend any time? I'm just curious. You say you spend time with your kids and you garden and yoga and this and that? Do you ever have those times when you have to go into the world and it's like all 3D, like walking in a government building or something?
Well, I don't have any cause to go into any government buildings, but yeah, I go shopping, of course. Yeah, there are times when I have to go into places that make me feel slightly nervous before I go. But then,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's all about one's own energy, and energy is a shield that only love can get in, but nothing bad can get in. I think that's the thing, to raise the vibration. I mean, there's people who don't even see me now, who can't see me. I can walk in and they just don't see me at all, and that's good because we're on different. We're having different dreams. We're living.
Different dreams,
We're
right?
having different dreams. Yeah, yeah.
So,
We're making our own reality, so we accept what we want. We can't play with bullshit anymore. The time to be coy is long, long gone. We all have to have our sovereignty, and it doesn't take any kind of intellect to claim that. Just an idea that I want to be happy. I had enough being unhappy. I had enough depression, anxiety. It was heavy. It was really heavy. And then I realized that what was causing that for me was a dissonance. You know, I was living in a way which offended my soul, or things that happened to me which offended my soul. And as always, when I pulled this into the light, when I had epiphanies of this was the case, then I pulled it into the light, and the light dissipated it, just dissolved its power, because it was no longer hiding in the shadows like the monster that could jump out and suddenly I don't know what to do. I pulled it into the light and it just crumbled every
wow.
time.
Yeah. I don't know. The way I'm getting it is sovereignty in every moment. Everything that you come across, what you order at a restaurant,
Yeah.
what you get for yourself, what you do for yourself, what you do for others, what decisions are put before you. And what you said is hurt your soul.
Mm.
And I think that was the hardest part,
Mm.
coming to terms with it. Great
Yeah.
testimony. What was it like growing up Hindu? You
Well,
said you said
I
you're
was not Hindu. I was not Hindu. My father came to this country in '58 to
uh-huh.
London, and it was a time when my mother and father mixed race marriage. It was not a thing in the '50s and '60s to have a mixed race marriage. The
uh,
National Front
so
was it
so
rose
he
in the '70s. It was a case for my parents that they could not talk of themselves. They kept their heads down because they thought there was some safety in that. And then when I was born in '63, so I went to school during the '70s when the National Front rose in the football matches, in the crowds at football matches. They um, recruited the young people into this bully boy movement, and we were at that time we were encouraged. I mean, when I was young, I didn't know what I looked like. There was no people of color on television in this country, and no people of color really in this area. So I went when I was 16 to live in Brixton in London, with a tiny bag, my school bag actually, with some pairs of pants and a t-shirt in it, to find other black people. And they said to me, "My God, you're almost white." And I would say, "Yes, but I've got a black heart."
So that what you're talking about, that was a serious deal, that thing in the 70s. I remember because I had Sports Illustrated and I never really read about the matches themselves, but they would have those riots break out. Was that race related?
Oh yeah, for sure. And
Okay.
it was
So
it was endemic.
that's
It was in the culture. We had a racist politicians. We had racist We had lack of blackface. We had so many different things. We had the whole colonial legacy, of course, the British Empire.
So your parents were transformers. They were
My parents
quiet.
were very brave.
Yeah, your parents were humble, quiet, courageous, and they just went about and held on to their sovereignty. Basically, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, they came to a really small place and kept their heads down and were very, very nice. But that in itself is an oppression, to feel that you always have to be quiet and you always have to be nice.
Mm.
And my father used to say we have to be twice as good as other people in order to be good enough. And this is
Mm.
I can't criticize it because he did the best he could, and we all do that the best we can. But we all stand on the shoulders of giants. You know, the ones that come after are always, we hope, going to be better, are going to be more progressional than the ones who went before, and the student must learn from the teacher and then go beyond the teacher, and that's correct. That's the right way for things to go. I was a punk, you know. I became a punk when punk music came out in 77, 78. I was 14 or 15 years old, and that was a great thing, because that was all about rebelling. So that opened the doors to anything and everything you wanted to be.
Sex Pistols. God save the Queen.
You had permission. You have permission then.
Yeah. Why is it that when you look deep enough, at some point in their life, even if it was a short period of time, all light workers were hellraisers? At some point.
Of course, so, rebels.
Now, do you? God, you're it's such a unique interview. It's some of the questions. It's great because I can come up with new questions. But so, like in the way that your energy flows and the way that your life experience has been with these teachers on the path, and the multi ethnicity, and the example of your parents and all that, and to see all this talk now about ascension, about prophecies all aligning, and different things happening, even the things that you're seeing, like you're talking about with the sun. I mean, that must have been quite a story to watch from your eyes.
Yeah, it's been a trip, but isn't everyone's life, you know? As soon as you talk to somebody more than the superficial, you find these enormous, rich, dense stories from absolutely everybody. We're all amazing. We're all amazing sovereign people.
Wow.
Claiming ourselves. We're all claiming ourselves now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely it. And it doesn't take telling anybody. It's just like you said, you're that energy field. Nothing can come in that field unless you allow it. And so maybe discernments, there's a new form of discernment. Maybe that's part of it. But sovereignty is the order of the day.
Yeah. For sure. And in the old paradigm, we all, I think to one extent or another, but more or less greatly, felt that we were not worthy. Everyone felt, I'm not worthy. And the most arrogant of people were covering up the fact that they didn't feel they were worthy. And now things are different. Now we realize that we've entered to Christ consciousness. We are worthy. There's nothing more worthy than our hearts. And we are creating a different kind of future now. We realize we have that ability. We always had it, but now we just, oh my goodness. Yeah.
And the results are becoming faster and faster. You know, the gap between the actual manifestation of something and the heartfelt energy putting it into creation is becoming shorter and shorter. What interests me, or what makes me curious, is what's going to happen to these laws. What's going to happen to the, and that's that mind that you talked about that wants to know everything. Morgan said the same thing to me this morning, but just how that's all going to look. Because things are happening so fast. If they're happening fast within ourselves, even given the linear timeline, you got to know that it's going to look the same in the external. It's going to follow us. Things are going to change very, very rapidly. That's just the way it looks. I mean, we're all changing rapidly.
I think we're moving. I don't know. I don't suppose this is a straight line thing, but we are moving in more and more to a state of peaceful anarchy, where laws are being disregarded by people, not people who consider themselves to be rebellious or subversives, but just people in their own common sense, in furtherance of loving their family.
Without getting radical.
To be done, like swapping things instead of paying with money, or living from the heart, actually. Not looking to the not looking to the patriarch, the father, who to tell me what to do. That's busted. That's totally busted out of the water now.
What do you see on the other side of that? That's countering that, or that's filling that container, is that energy, that false energy is leaving. I could just call it Mother Goddess or the Divine Feminine. What does that mean to you? What does that say to you? What is that presence? If we've been under a false father, what's the real mother like to you? Energy.
This is not about gender. Clearly, there's women who are very full of masculine energy. We have, at the moment, this Theresa May in the government here, and we've had Margaret Thatcher. We had 10 years of Margaret Thatcher, very much a metallic energy, patriarchal type woman. On the other hand, we have a really great feminine energy guys like Eckhart Tolle and Noam Chomsky. There are many who are the new earth, the new energies that are feminine, and this is cooperation and conservation and inclusion. And this is in the, we know this is in the long count calendars. There's the end of the patriarchal structures. It's over. So now the ones who live who profited from these kind of structures, these old structures, they no longer have the energy supporting them. The earth no longer supports it. So they're disintegrating, because they're in themselves, they're like paper tigers. You can put a finger through them now.
Wow. Powerful perspective. I love it. It's full of activations. Yeah, full of activations. Just what you said, just being raw and being real. And you were nervous, and I don't even know why. But I really enjoyed it. It was a very unique conversation. If you can get your son on, you two can come on together or alone. That'd be great. And that goes for everybody. We're looking for some young people to come on and bring in that energy to expand this energy we call Soulogy. I appreciate you coming on and sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence and telling us about your personal journey. It's a beautiful journey, and the story itself, you should write it. The story of you and your father, that was incredible, with the preparing his body and having the 5 days and everything. The energy of it was beautiful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, and Morgan, for all the work you do.
You're very welcome. For moments like this, it makes it all worth it. It's all worth it every day. We're going to keep going with it. We'll be back in 2-3 hours with Nancy Jo Hook.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you, everybody.